Episode 131 of Pokémon Horizons, titled Come On, Gather Up, Our Fellow Companions, just aired. This might be the most divisive one in a while, dude. A recurring criticism of Roy's character came to a head here, resulting in fans being totally split. Part of the community is happy with the execution, part of the community is raging about it, and me, personally, I have a lot to say, especially about some of the hypocrisy going around right now. So be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy my review video, and now let's dive into it. A running gag in this episode is that our heroes are so excited to see Friede again that every time the doorbell rings, they sprint to it thinking it's him, only for it to be someone completely unexpected each time. First, why the most unpredictable character returns ever, because ex-crew member Wyatt B. Yesler is at the door. And why yes, I will be referring to him with his full legal name. And Perrin is with him too. I might be losing the plot here, but why do I kind of ship Wyatt and Perrin? Not only have they been travelling together, but also he's a journalist, she's a photographer. Could it be any more obvious? That's literally a perfect duo, man. Perrin even admires him. And not to mention, literally seconds before they arrived, Ludlow fished up a love disc. That can't be a coincidence. Could Horizons actually be giving us the most unexpected romance of all time? Anyway, basically the two of them want to help prove the Ryzen Vault Tackler's innocent with their journals and photography, and that's so sweet of them, man. I feel like it's gonna take something like this along with a big collab stream between Nidothing and Iono to reveal the truth after everything at Lark was concluded. Then the doorbell rings again and our heroes dash up to it so excited thinking it's Friede, only for it to once again not be him. But hey, it is this trio and they're all ready to go to Larkwood together. Meanwhile, Friede and Megastami are walking through the city and they sense that they're being stalked by someone in the shadows. And that leads to what might be the worst animated scene in Pokémon Horizons history. That's just a PNG of Charizard floating across the screen, bruh. You have to laugh, dude. It definitely rivals the animation of the Mega Slowbro and Mega Gardevoir in the Lumiose City flashback arc. But yeah, Friede does escape and he reunites with Yanga, his work colleague at Exceed, but more importantly, Yanga's Joltik! Bro, you can't expect me to focus on anything else at all when Joltik is on the screen. One of my favorite Pokemon of all time. And plus, I'll never forget when I beat the entire Blueberry Academy Elite Four and Champion with my Joltik Fluffles live on Twitch. Fluffles was the GOAT, man. Anyway, Yanga hints that most of the workers at Exceed aren't really aligned with Spinel. They're not even sure if the Strong Spheres are safe, but he's the company president so nobody can openly oppose him or disobey him. I do like though that this really highlights that Exceed aren't a bad company, they're just ran by a corrupt leader. And so I imagine when Spinel is defeated it probably sets up Ametheo becoming the new president of the company, leading it for good purposes like he promised his grandfather he would. So Friede reveals the truth of Luckworm and all of his data to Yanga, how dangerous it is, and at first, Yanga doesn't really know what he can do as a small, low-down worker, but eventually he does muster up the courage and he takes the data from Friede, wanting to do something about it. And dude, this is really making me appreciate and realise why the writers chose Joltik to be Yanga's partner. After all, Yanga is just a tiny speck in a much bigger company, just a small, low-down worker, but that doesn't mean he can't fight for what's right. And that aligns perfectly with Joltik being the smallest Pokemon, a speck compared to other Pokemon, but he still fights too. That's beautiful, man. Shortly later at the reunion site, the doorbell rings again. Our heroes are so excited knowing the only person left to arrive is Friede, so it has to be Friede. Liko opens the door, filled with joy, but it's not Friede. She's met with a big scary guy in knight armor. Mayonnaise, dude, Royanault's mentor from Lumiose City. Liko is terrified and quickly slams the door in his face, panicking. And dude, this made me laugh so much. Honestly, the most valid reaction ever. If I opened my front door and saw a stranger decked out in full knight armor, I'd probably do the same. Anyway, they're shocked until Friede appears next to him. You see, it turns out the guy who was stalking Friede was Mayonnaise, and it was all because of Friede's Megastami who Mayonnaise lost his mind over. So Mayonnaise heard about their battle ahead to end the Luckworm and he wants to help, so he shows Roy a newly discovered Lucario Knight Z Megastone. He hands it over and thinks it could be a game changer to help him win, but first, Roy and Lucario need to prove that they can wield it, cause it is not gonna be simple, man. Okay, so this entire thing caused quite the controversy in the community. One of the biggest ongoing criticisms of Pokémon Horizons since the time skip is that Roy has been getting a lot compared to Liko. He got a shiny Lucario, he got Mega Evolution, he got the Black Rayquaza, so now seeing him being given another power-up like it's nothing really feels like the straw that broke the Camerupt's back for a lot of folks. And I do understand where the criticism comes from. I do have thoughts on it, probably enough for a whole separate video, but in this specific case I don't really mind it yet. Because even though Mayonnaise did give Roy the Mega Stone, Roy and Lucario still have to prove that they can actually wield it, you know? It's not fully like it was given to them on a silver platter and they have to do nothing to earn the power. The writers have a really good opportunity here to make it actually feel justified and feel earned. So yeah, I guess whether I like the writing decision or not really depends on what happens next. It could go either way, but I don't want to judge it before it's even happened. If Roy and Lucario easily wield it with no work, no development, no struggle, then I agree it sucks. But if they do have to put the work in to master it, then I don't really have an issue. Obviously though, in the ideal world they would have discovered the Mega Stone themselves. But hey, at least being friends with a Mega Evolution guru does make a lot of sense too, and we do know that Mayonnaise is no pushover, so hopefully they'll have to lock in. So the two of them meet on the battlefield with everyone watching, no pressure at all, and Mayonnaise sends out his Hawlucha. It's so good to see a Hawlucha again, man. This guy is showing off and flexing and playing up to the crowd like the superstar he is, and then the battle begins. Lucario uses Metal Claw repeatedly, but it's dodged by Hawlucha over and over, and then Hawlucha turns it into an acrobatics hit. He begins putting on a show on top of a lamppost, loving the attention from the crowd and Perrin's camera, but when Lucario tries to interrupt with Flash Cannon, oh boy, Hawlucha is angry. Never take away a star's spotlight like that. Mayonnaise reveals his keystone, Mega Evolving Hawlucha into the beautiful, powerful Mega Hawlucha, the first one to ever appear in the anime. He looks so peak, it's insane, dude. So bulky and cool. Lucario is angry that Hawlucha is getting so much love and adoration from the crowd, so he charges in blindly with close combat, but even a direct hit does absolutely nothing. You see, Hawlucha, because of the Mega Evolution, he's just so tanky and bulky, so Lucario relying on brute force with close combat, that just isn't gonna work, dude. And hey, we all know that brute force is something that Roy and Lucario have relied on way too much recently, and here, once again, it's their fatal flaw. It's too late for Roy to realise and come up with a different approach, because Mayonnaise immediately follows up with Encore. Dude, we've only ever seen Encore once in the anime over 16 years ago, and the Encore works exactly how Mayonnaise planned. Lucario now has no control. All he can do is use close combat over and over and over, relying on brute force over and over and over, and obviously we know that doesn't work. So Hawlucha just plays around it and punishes him. Man, what a strategy from Mayonnaise there, locking Lucario into brute force, the one thing that won't work against Mega Hawlucha. At this point, Lucario is exhausted and Roy is desperate, so he tries to Mega Evolve with his new Lucario Knight Z as a last resort, but to everyone's shock, nothing happens. It seems that because of the Encore and the reliance on brute force, Roy and Lucario are just totally off balance and unsynchronized. And as we all know, Mega Evolution can't happen unless the trainer and Pokemon are on the same wavelength in heart and mind. So right now, Mega Evolution just isn't possible for them. I love this, man. How Mega Evolution isn't something you can just rely on to easily win when trainer and Pokemon aren't aligned. You have to fix the root cause behind the problem. Plus, this has been building for a while, man. Lucario has lost so many battles in a row, and we clearly saw that him and Roy weren't aligned on their reactions to losing to Nemona a few weeks ago, so all of that leading to this, to brute force failing again and then Encore taking the issues to another level, that's really cool to see. Roy can't just use his Lucario Knight Z like it's nothing, he does have to earn it like I hoped. And this divide between Roy and Lucario is emphasised even more when Hawlucha is taunting them, and then Roy tries to command Lucario to use a different approach, but Lucario, in his frustration from the Encore and from Hawlucha's sheer aura farming, he snaps at Roy in anger. They're so clearly unaligned right now, and Roy is shocked. Then, when Lucario charges in ragefully with close combat, Hawlucha just effortlessly parries and uses Flying Press, knocking the dog out like it's nothing. Okay, dude, it's time to rant, because some of the community have really frustrated me with this. For ages, people have been complaining that Roy is just handed stuff and not earning anything, and how much that sucks. And so people have been hating on Roy being given a Lucario Knight Z too. And that's a totally fair, valid concern. But now that the episode has actually aired and proved that wrong, focusing entirely on Roy and Lucario not being good enough to wield the new Mega Evolution yet, now I'm seeing those exact same people shifting their criticism. Now it's not that Roy never earns anything, now those people are saying, Lucario is weak, Lucario loses again, Lucario is a fraud, Roy sucks. Like, bruh, are we serious? So it's a problem when Roy doesn't struggle to earn things, but now it's also a problem when Roy does struggle to earn things? Like, dude, if Roy won this and used the Lucario Knight Z perfectly, everyone would have hated on that too. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think Horizons has handled Royal Lucario the best since the time skip. I have a lot of issues with myself. There's been a lot of flaws. But I don't know, for me I don't think this episode made it worse. I think it did a good job at making up for some of those flaws. This battle was a perfect display and climax of a character flaw that Roy and Lucario have had for so long. Their sheer over-reliance on brute force. Brute Force couldn't work against Mega Hawlucha's sheer bulkiness, and then Mayonnaise used an Encore to force Lucario to use Brute Force close combat over and over and over. That proved to Roy clear as day that Brute Force, the approach he's relied on way too heavily for way too long, it doesn't work, it's not enough to become greater. This is why he and Lucario have lost against so many opponents in a row. Even Nemona pointed it out in their last battle. Having a Lucario who has these amazing aura powers, but then just going for brute force, it's a waste really. And now that Mayonnaise has proven that, he basically tells them they need to find other ways to use Lucario's strength and aura powers. They need to master Lucario's aura outside of brute force. That's how they'll become better, and that's how they'll achieve Mega Lucario Z. And dude, this is so hype. I literally perfectly predicted how this would happen in my video a week or two ago. I mean, I thought it would be Karina, which was wrong, but other than that, I was right about Roy over-relying on brute force with Lucario, how they would need to focus on Lucario's aura way more to become stronger, and how that would lead to Mega Lucario Z specialising in that. I was bang on the money, man. Massive W. So yeah, this episode really emphasised the issue between Roy and Lucario that's been building up for the past half a year, and it set him up to finally begin learning and developing from it. Undermining that by just calling Lucario weak or Roy a fraud for losing this battle, that's totally ignoring all of the intent from the writers. Anyway, Roy and Lucario vow they'll learn from this, and now the Brave Olivine airship has finally been upgraded. Ino arrives and wishes him luck in Laqua, and she wants to do a big collab stream with Nidothing afterwards, probably to spread the truth about what happened. And now our heroes are ready to go and pick up Liko's grandma, Diana, the final member of the team. So the Ryzen Volt Tacklers blast off in their airship, going faster than ever because of all the upgrades, and that is where the episode ended. I genuinely think I've already said just about everything I would ever need to say about this episode throughout the video. I went on so many rants, man, so many tangents. But overall, I loved the reunion between everyone. I loved seeing unexpected faces who wanted to help in their own ways, like Perrin, Wyatt and Iono. I loved the setup for development between Roy and Lucario, and I hope the next episode really makes them put in the work to earn the Lucario Knight Z. If they overcome this too easily, then yeah, I'll agree it's a problem. I am kind of frustrated though by the back and forth, wishy-washy, flip-floppy hatred against Roy, where anything he does is wrong and anything he doesn't do is wrong too, and how that led to so many people in the community being angry at the episode without actually thinking about it on a deeper level. So let me know your thoughts on the episode below, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed my review. Thank you so much to all the millions and trillions of channel members zooming down the screen right now, and of course a massive thank you to the Ferlax fam, the Ferlax fanatics like Toten, Juscadia, Not Minnie, Hope, Shareborn, Jay, Finny, Pokesan, Shiny, what a bunch of legends. And on that note, thank you all so much for watching, and best wishes until we meet again.